Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's January 31st. This will be our chart lesson for today. And quick look at our daily chart. You can see that we had a big down day today. Open near its high, close on almost its very low here. No real surprise that it was bearish after the rate announcement. They'd already baked in a rate cut, I think, for this meeting, and they didn't cut it. They didn't raise it this time, but they didn't cut it. So I think the market was overdue for a correction here, and we'll see. I mean, you can't count this market out. It just keeps wanting to go higher, so we could go take it all back first thing tomorrow. But you can see that it was definitely a very bearish day today. And again, I don't think there's much surprise there, just simply because they had the market had already built in a rate cut, and we didn't get one. So I think that probably caught a few people off guard. But let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart. Quite a few trades today, a lot more price action, a lot more volume. And we'll take a look at today's chart and go through the trades. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. You can see we started out in this downtrend this morning. I actually guesstimated this low side early on, and it looks like I guessed it pretty much. I talked about it in the mid-morning report. If you saw that, I wasn't sure if this was correct, but it turns out I hit it right on. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's easier to spot than other times, and that seemed to have worked out pretty good. And all I did was take the upper line and then try to get the midline where it looked like it fit the best, and hoping that's where prices would turn, and they traded down to that and turned right off of it. So, but there it is, from the bigger picture. This was the news right in here, and then we rallied off of that, and then suddenly sold off strongly. So let's zoom in here. There's quite a few trades today compared to what we've been seeing. So I mean, I say quite a few. It's not a whole lot, but it's a few more than we have been seeing the last few days. So, but let's zoom on in here. We'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap today up. There was a couple of news items this morning, and of course the FOMC stuff. The FOMC stuff always be flat at least an hour prior, because sometimes it'll go into that last hour, it'll look just like that, and you'll get stuck in that, and then the news will come out and you'll get whipsawed. So don't stay flat. Let's see what it actually did today. We actually had a little movement going into the news today, but see how it starts to get flat right there, and then the news comes out. So just be flat. My recommendation, I'm always flat at least an hour prior. And these others, 10 or 15 minutes is usually good. And since this first one was at 7:15, I would just hold until after. And then you got the 7:30 one. So I would, in these you give them 5 or 10 minutes, or whenever the price action. Usually it only takes 5 or 10, 15 minutes for the price action to settle back down on these. Sometimes the price action doesn't even affect them very much. But right now, the way this market is as touchy as it is, I would always be flat going into anything red, anything that's considered high volatility, which would be the red ones. The green, I don't worry about those. And any of this FOMC stuff that's just speakers, I don't worry too much about that either. Just the FOMC rates. Otherwise, I just ignore them if it's just a speaker speaking at a luncheon or whatever. So, anyway, you couldn't really take a trade today till after almost 8 o'clock, and then we're just kind of chopping around here, and I really didn't see anything. This was a possibility here. You might argue that's a triple test, but those two bars with matching highs and matching lows and the green uptrend, it's really more of a sideways. I was trying to look at this as an uptrend earlier, and now that after the fact, I really don't think it was. It probably was, but it was probably more like this. My read was probably off a little bit, and you do get a break in new high. So if you saw just the sideways stuff and the triple test, there wouldn't be any reason you couldn't take that one. So I'll mark it green. And then, of course, we break out And as we know, most breakouts fail. And then you get your, I'd wait on a lower high on this one though, because we're not back to the trend line yet. And a lot of times it'll make a couple more legs up. So when it made the lower high right here with a nice signal bar, I like to go in short right there. That's a nice setup. And then I would count this as a new high. And then you get a first entry, second entry. So there's a failure right there. And you might even look at that as triple high. This is not a perfect triple test, but you could still call it one. But this is really a failure, and that's a little more advanced. If you're not consistently profitable every day, don't worry about triple failures and failed second entries and things like that. This would be a continuation pattern, and you see it does continue on down before you get your break. And there's another triple test here, 1, 2, 3, but it's just so congested. That's really, I want to say somebody asked me about this trade, and I told them they shouldn't take it. And you really shouldn't take that because your support is right here, and you only got a few ticks. It works, and it is a downtrend. So if you were going to take one, it would definitely be to the short side. You wouldn't want to take a triple test to the upside. But I just think you're better off to stay out because you see right here, you know, there's several opportunities here, and you would have got stuck in it. You may not have got stopped out, but you would have got stuck in it. So just stay out of that stuff. Same thing right here. It's just chop along. Now, notice right here we are making lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So we're trending down here. It's a weak trend, but it's a trend. So so I like this one once we tested that triple test of that midline right there in the big bearish bar. This actually broke higher and failed and turned down. You could trade that on the engulfing bar. It's probably going to trap some people. Boom, off it goes. And we're just chopping sideways again. Don't try to go long down here. We're in a downtrend. So just forget longs for now. This thing runs up, you get a break, couple legs up, and another lower high. Nice signal bar, go short right there. There's another reversal here, but this is in the middle of a range now. Looks like we're working more sideways than we are up or down. So I wouldn't take a reversal right there, failure. It would have worked, but it's just not a very good setup. Of course, it fails out the bottom. And this is tempting right here, but it's just not, like I said, in a downtrend like this, you're just better off to stay out of it. There's no break of this trend line yet. Yeah, there's a good chance at some point we're going to go back to that trend line, but you're taking a big chance with all these little dojis and stuff of getting hung up there. It turns out to be a great move, but then there's a higher low right here, but it's right into the midline again, so I would just sit tight. This one was tempting because it's pretty much a double top, but we're not back to the highs yet, and we've already had a break here and a new low on this, so there's a chance we're going to make another push up here to make a new high on this channel, and we don't end up doing it, at least not yet. But you can't, you can't risk that, so no short right there. If you took it, it worked. It's great, but it's still not a high probability setup. And then we bounce here, and this takes us into the news, and so just sit tight. You can see we had some volatility here from the news by about 10 after it had settled down. You got a triple test here, but this is your signal bar, so you can't really go short there. And you get another failure out the bottom side. Now you do have a break and a new low, so that means you might could take that one. That's such a big bar. There's not much room back to that EMA where you could get hung up if it's trying to reverse. So, I'm not. That's one you could argue to be green probably, but I didn't like it in real time. Now, if this would have given you a good signal bar, maybe you go long there on the second entry and trying to go lower twice more. And then you get the failed breakout up here, but you can't trade that signal bar. The lower highs right here. Now that one's tempting. I didn't mark it because of all this congestion right here, and it could just be going, but you could argue for that to at least be green. it's such a bearish bar, and it is a lower high. Um, but we might get a correction here because we do have a break of the trend line and a new low, and we've tested that low multiple times. So you got to be real careful going short now. If you get a really good setup, you want to take it, but and that one's not a horrible setup, but it's not a great one either. It's just a lower high. Um, but you can see the resistance does come back into play, but you got a lot of you got a lot of congestion across there. And you see it does continue. You would have had to ride that out, and that's just a little spooky. Then all of a sudden it reverses and shoots straight up. No way to enter that. And you close outside, it just keeps kind of chopping higher. You could have gone ahead and drawn your new trend line here if you wanted. It's just a flatter trend line. And you get a little close outside the new high and then a lower high, but that's not a good setup. And you get another reversal. Now this is a good spot for a reversal or a failed second entry long. If it breaks below that, we're probably headed lower again. And there it goes. Then prices make a new low, and you get a break of this and a new high, and the break below that's a second entry short. I like that. It's also a triple test, although this did make a new high. And then you get another test here of a lower high with a real bearish bar. If you didn't go short here, definitely get in here. And you could actually add on there if you wanted. So just a first entry, and then you finally get another second entry here. Notice it runs up, close outside, attempted a new high, and then just a second entry short. This thing is pretty bearish at this point, so just take any good second entry short off the key entry point. Even these are tempting, good signal bars, but this is not one of those real tight, super strong. I mean, this is a strong downtrend. Don't get me wrong, but it's not one of those real tight ones where every signal bar comes back, you probably want to take it. I mean, you could, especially this one that broke higher first and turned down, but it's a little sideways too. And that's a problem across there all the way. It's still going kind of sideways. So I don't think I would take those. Again, no longs here. Because we don't. You could argue there's a close outside here, but that's not a convincing close. You need a convincing close outside, and we don't get that till here. You do get a break and two legs up and a lower high here, but that signal bar is just too big. And it's got a lot of stem on it. And again, you don't want to be going long yet. And finally get a triple test with a decent signal bar. I like that one. And this one's tempting too because this is a second, technically it's not a second entry, but you can clearly see there's a couple of swings down. And it's a failed breakout. But again, I just think on a day like this when it's been so bearish, I just think you're asking for trouble to try to go long. It would have worked, but you're better off to wait on the shorts. I mean, you can make a mistake if you're entering with the bias and the trend and still survive. Like right here, I normally wouldn't tell you to go short there, but let's just assume you did go short there. It broke higher and failed and went down. If you go short there, you would have survived that. But, you know, in some of these cases, if you go long against the trend, you don't survive them. So, just something to think about there. But that takes us into 230, so I don't see anything else there I like. If this had to made a new low, if it would have made a somewhat equal low across there, I probably would have marked it. At least green or something. But I just think you're better off to wait. And you can see that we did have more room to it's like we got back in the trend and it reestablished. This was just an anomaly because of the news, most likely. And this market wanted to go lower, and it got back in this channel and continued to follow the channel. So that happens sometimes. So once you notice that, just start trading the channel again if that's what it's giving you. So anyway, that's how I saw it today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Believe it or not, tomorrow's already Thursday. Seems like I just got back, and we've already got another week behind us almost. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.